Hey YouTube! So this is a video of a new project that I'm currently in the middle of, and that's making a Christmas RGB LED sign. And I decided to do this video a little different than I normally do by just overlaying audio later. So right now what you're seeing is me cutting some plywood into a 4-foot by 3-foot sheet so that I can lay the sign out on this plywood. Now I've been wanting to play around with these addressable RGB LEDs for a while now for Christmas, but I haven't really thought of a way to utilize them until I thought about making a sign to put on top of my garage for my Christmas lights. And I wanted to keep it biblical, so and keep it focused on the real reason for Christmas. So I decided to put Jesus Christ is Lord, since that's a direct Bible quote. So what I'm doing here is I'm tracing out the lettering for what the sign's going to be laid out as. And I got an idea for this based off a rope light sign I found online. So I took just pictures of that rope light sign and projected them onto the plywood and then just traced them. And I couldn't find Lord, so I had to just type it out regularly. And this is me trying to center everything. Now I'm not artistic at all. I can do artistic stuff like this as long as it's like structured art. So that's why I had to trace everything out. There's no way I could have like free-handed it or even thought about how to make the font on my own. But yeah, so pretty much that's what you're watching right now is me just tracing everything out. And what I was saying was I couldn't find anything for Lord. So what I decided to do is to keep with the style that the first letter of the word is artistic. I used that font for the L, and then I just used a normal font for the ORD. Okay, this is a spacer I made to space LEDs the same length, or have the same spacing throughout the whole sign. So I just 3D printed that little template. And I'm using 12mm LEDs, so my holes need to be 12mm in diameter. And I just went around and over top the tracing that I did earlier at the same spacing. I just went around and drew all these circles. And as you can see, I just went around. Nothing more to say here. Now, as I started this project, as I started this part of the project, I realized that this project ended up being much larger than I originally anticipated. So I was trying to decide whether I should increase the spacing between the LEDs, but I was afraid that if I did that, you wouldn't be able to tell exactly what the letters were supposed to be spelling out. Okay, and this is where I was going to explain some problems that I realized I was going to start having. But in hindsight, the things I was explaining here, I ended up not going with on the project, so it doesn't apply. But basically what I was saying was there ended up being 707 LEDs on the sign, which was way more than I anticipated. So I was talking about the logistics of doubling up the addresses so that there would only be like 354 addresses. But in hindsight, what I ended up doing is I ended up just buying a knockoff Arduino Pro Mini, because I could do that. They were only 10 bucks. You see, I don't use Arduino that much, but I do have an Arduino Duo Millenova, which is like over 10 years old now. They don't make them anymore. But I was using that for my testing of this project, And like I said, I usually don't use Arduino, but I decided to just go ahead and use Arduino on this project for the fact that the fast LED library makes it super simple. The reason I don't like using Arduino is because with the Arduino bootloader and the libraries, it ends up putting a lot more in your microcontroller than you realize what your microcontroller actually is doing. Because when you do the libraries and the bootloader, there's a lot of things running in the background that you never really see. And I just always like the idea of being 100% in control of the code and just knowing like exactly how the microcontroller is operating. That's why I don't use Arduino. But in this case, the fast LED library makes it super simple that I'm going to use that. And like I said, I'm just going to individually address all LEDs, because when you're doing animations, if you double up on the LED addressing, if you're doing like a twinkle effect, you're always going to have LEDs turning on and off with each other instead of independent of each other. So pretty much everything I said here was irrelevant now that I decided to use a different Arduino. And this is me just testing out the LED strands. And more specifically, I was testing paralleling the LED addresses. So you're looking at 400 LEDs, but really there's only 200 addresses being outputted. And two of the strands are in, you're looking at you're looking at 8 strands. I have 2 strands in series, and then all the powers paralleled out of those 4 strands of the 2 strands in series, because you want to keep your power limited to 100 LEDs per strand, but the data is being doubled up. So I was just experimenting to make sure that there was no problems. I did use a 220 ohm resistor for the data to prevent any flyback on the data lines. Okay, so now we get going into drilling all the holes. Now I just drilled one hole and I test fitted the LED. They're 12 millimeter LEDs, and I bought the cheapest 12 millimeter bit I could find off of Amazon, which when I started drilling, I thought, man, that's probably not a good idea. I need to drill 700 holes, and I went and bought the cheapest bit I could find. But that bit did last for the 700 holes. Now the thing is, I'm drilling into a scrap 2x3. On the back side, I did get a lot of chipping on the back. Way this bit is, the center part of the bit isn't any deeper than the ends of the bit, so there's no way to like start drilling one side and then come in from the back side unless I pilot drilled all the holes. So on the back side, I did get a lot of chipping, but it didn't really ruin the structure integrity of the plywood. And then I didn't film the whole thing, so I thought, well, I'll go ahead and just film me doing the last letter. But the funny part is I didn't even have enough battery to finish the last letter. So I have all Ryobi 18 volt power tools, so I ended up having 3 batteries, and I was able to go non-stop by using all 3 batteries. And then this is the 3rd battery and it goes dead on me, and I went and I used the first battery that I was charging immediately after use. So yeah, the battery died. And when I first started drilling the holes, I was thinking to myself, this looks like a whole bunch of random holes. Like, it doesn't look like it's spelling anything. But then as I got the first word done, Jesus, and I stopped and I looked at it from afar, I realized that, oh no, you can actually see what it says. So this was actually the first part of the project that I realized, okay, maybe this is going to work out, because I'm just winging this the whole entire time. And that's what the sign looks like. So as you can see, you can clearly see what it says. And that was something that I was worried about when I first started drilling the holes. And then earlier when I was standing in front of the sign talking about the 707 LEDs, I was saying how looking at all the holes at that point marked with pencil, I couldn't tell if the project was going to work out as far as if you would be able to properly see what the sign's supposed to say. Since I I boxed the letters instead of just doing a single row down the center of the letters. And so now I bought 2x3 plywood because it's cheap, and for the structural integrity, 2x3 works great. Plus it keeps it a little light, since as of right now, I'm planning on putting this on my roof of my garage. So I just framed out the 2x3 on all 4 edges, and I kept it a foot off the ground, as you can see. And I just screwed it on the outside edges. And then this next part, I need to create the legs. So I went and I vice gripped it to the wall of my shed. Now I set the 2x3 on the floor, and I have a level with me, and I'm trying to get it as level as possible, and then get the vertical part level as possible. And that's how I did my 90-degree angles, because I don't have the proper square triangle. I just never got a square triangle. And I'm not really good with woodworking projects, but I've jokingly said throughout this project to myself, well, I've seen enough old 64 goat videos to know how to work with wood. Yeah, I'm just kind of winging it, this whole project. Now we're going to the other side, so I'm doing the same thing. And then I don't think I filmed it on video. It's going to be the next part of the video, but what I ended up doing was I did take a 2x3 and cut it at an angle on a chop saw, and ripped it at a 45 degrees, so it creates extra structural support. But I only put one per leg, and then I alternate it which direction that angle brace was. And there, I finished the sign's vertical now. So, like I said, I'm still in the process of working on the sign. So it's still ongoing, but I thought I would go ahead and post the first part to get the discussion going. If you guys have any ideas to suggest for me. And it is really early in the season. I mean, it's October 14th right now, so hopefully other people are working on their Christmas projects. Maybe they're working on something similar, and maybe this will give you an idea of something to do. But yeah, if you have any suggestions, like I said, I'm just winging this whole project. So if you have any suggestions, just let me know, and we'll catch you on part 2.